Hey everybody, this is Adrian. I wanted to kind of show my progress with this like Octopath Traveler style that I've been trying to kind of, move forward with. Let's jump into it. So there's a lot of changes that I've made. So I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of go through this cohesively. The first thing is I showed a method on how to kind of use the cube grid to build up shapes and stuff like that. And I've come up with a couple of extra things. You can see here on this one, it's a little more organic, which gives me kind of a better breakup. So if I were to take this one and start duplicating it and doing stuff like this, we'd end up getting like a lot cooler shape now than just kind of the boring square that I was getting before. So I want to go over what I did there. It's nothing too fancy, and honestly, most of my attempt is just trying to keep it in Unreal. You could take this stuff outside of Unreal and you could do way cooler stuff, but I really enjoy just staying in Unreal. I don't really get to do that often. I'm usually like jumping from program to program, so I just want to kind of like chill and do Unreal. So I'm gonna kind of show that. So I'll go ahead and I'll just take one of these here real quick. Let's just take this one, this basic path here. I'm gonna put it off to the side. So one of the new things that I've kind of started tinkering around with is I can come in here and I can use the displacement tool. And with this displacement tool, it's going to look a little crazy at first. I'm going to lower the subdivision counts. Maybe just do like 1. I'm also going to decrease the intensity. Maybe somewhere around like here is fine. Now you can try other noises. There's not a lot of options. I really wish there was more to this. But for now, like I think this is fun and a cool option. One of the cool things though is when you're using the Perlin noise, you can come down here and you can actually kind of tinker with the Perlin noise and the scale and the intensity. And you can see here that it's got a bunch of different layers, and you can keep adding more if you want. But we want to kind of like tinker around with this and kind of build up some cool shapes. And one thing that do is just kind of like drop all the intensity and just play with 1, like turn it up and see what it gets you. And then you can start playing with the frequency on how many times it tiles. I like to start with really like low numbers because it makes really large sizes with like a high intensity. And you can see that like it is breaking the shape and stuff like that. So don't go like too crazy because you do want this to be somewhat manageable, but like you can find some really cool things by doing this. So I'm going to put this back down to 0.01, and then I'm going to make the intensity a little lower. Maybe do something like this, and you'll see that some normals or some of the faces and stuff are kind of poking through. This happens with displacement. You got to be very careful when playing with displacement. So now I'm going to add a second layer of displacement just to get some more detail and kind of like texture. But again, I'm not going to be doing like really fine detail yet. I'm still going to be working on some of that larger detail. So I'm just going to keep kind of playing with that until I find something I like. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this either. I just kind of want to show this real quick. And then, and the same thing, apply some more detail. So let's do something like that, okay? Now, one thing that you'll notice is that it's also applied up here. And I haven't found a great method for collisions on these yet. I've ran into a couple different issues, and again, I'm really just wanting to keep it all in Unreal. But you could take it out into Blender in Maya, and you can make some quick custom collisions. It's not hard. But I'm a little frustrated that I don't have an option to do that in here. And I'll explain, because you do have options to do collision. But anyways, I don't really want that right now. I would really like to only apply it to the directions that I want. Now you can come over here to this directional filtering option. You can enable it, and by default it'll already like turn on, and it'll be on the z-axis. So you'll see now like our side faces are all flat again, but like that top one is still all bumpy. So what we can do is we can turn off the z-axis, and we can say, hey, let's display it against the x and the y. Now the only problem with this is you'll see here that it applies into the x and the y, but it does not apply to the negative coordinates of that. It's annoying, but I also like that they do that. But I'll show you something you can do. So you can go ahead and say accept. And then you can go back into the displacement again. This time we don't want to have another layer of divisions. And now you can do a -1. And you can try to do another -1. Yeah, there we go. And so now we have that side. If we want that side to be displaced or anything like that, it's really up to you. You don't have to do that, but anyway, it's not hard to fix. So from here, if you really wanted to kind of like generate like more unique shapes and stuff, I would just play with the dynamic mesh sculpting. Just make sure that you turn off edit, enable remeshing. These tools are pretty primitive for the most part, but they're pretty, like, I mean, they're nice. They're nice if you don't have like other options. But you can start to kind of like, you know, break up some of the shapes and kind of create a little bit more like organic stuff. Just be careful with it, because like it doesn't really restrict anything upon like a certain axis. It'd be really nice if it did, but it doesn't, and so you just kind of have to like eyeball it and be careful. But I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a fun little method, and it does kind of mimic some of the like stuff I see in Octopath Traveler. But again, I know that they used a lot of like modular assets that they built outside. So like it makes sense. So I'm not gonna spend like a ton of time. I think this gets the idea across for the most part. But anyways, so you just do that, build up your shapes. There's a bunch of other tools you can change from, like the move tool and stuff like that. But eventually you'll get something a little bit more organic. It's not great. You kind of think like you're trying to aim for like, I guess like older style like 3D like low poly models and stuff, but with like a little more like aesthetic to it now with all the like post-processing and stuff. So like you're not really like aiming for like the greatest models. But anyways, so yeah, that's that. I'm gonna go into my mesh paint real quick, grab this, go to black, and then fill, so we now get that. Cool. I did, in the red channel here, I did get a little bit of a better texture painting. I used a height blend, like a height lerp blend. It's not amazing, and it's definitely not what I was aiming for, but I think it gives like I think it gives a fine result for the most part. Like, I would prefer something much better, but I really do not know how they would transition between like two textures. I don't know how they do that. Like, that's a really curious and interesting thing. I don't know how they would look up that information and know when like two textures are bordering each other. But anyways, so you can get it here and you can see it's like it starts to kind of fill up. Like you can still see the grass and stuff a little bit, and it'll fill up from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom to the top, I'm sorry. And so yeah, it's a neat little thing. It's been around for a while. So yeah, I'm gonna fill that back. So for that, that's pretty much it. Now, if you wanted to fix any of the like weird normals or issues or anything like that, if you jump back into the modeling tool, just do another Vox wrap. Like, it's not going to increase anything, but it will fix a lot of that geometry that just kind of got like gross. So that's what I do, and then I just slap the material back on, and yeah, and we're good to go. So once again, you know, you can scale that down if you want. Scale it this way. And plop that up somewhere like there, and you know you can start building out something. And because of that world align, like it'll line up and look cool, which is really awesome. I did do the world align a little different as well. I made a new one. I'm still kind of working through it. Yeah, I think this is the one. Yeah. Essentially, it's nothing like too fancy. I really just kind of piggybacked off of what Epic already had made. I just kind of changed it a little bit. So here I actually have 3 different textures instead of 1 texture. And then I have like a packed ones if I want to do like roughness, normal map, or roughness, height, or AO, or anything, or whatever I want. I could pack whatever texture I want in there. Like I could do some RGB masking and have like breakups for all the tiling. And then I did the same thing for the normals. So now I can like say, oh, I want to project this texture along this axis and this texture along this axis, and like a different one along a different axis, and they all match up, which is really cool. So yeah, that was a little bit cleaner, and weirdly, it's not really that much more costly, which I found kind of interesting. I thought, oh yeah, it's gonna be like way more expensive, and it's really not. Like that's mine there, and then that's the normal one, so it's like a little bit. So I thought that was cool. So let's play, and I'll show you a cool new thing that I've been working on. So I'm gonna come over here, and I'm gonna go up to this house, and you'll see something happen. So now we are in the house, and we did a couple things. We fade transitions, we scaled the character down, and we changed the vignetting, so it kind of replicates that Octopath Traveler, where like when you go into a house, it kind of like all the outside stuff become larger. The house feels bigger than what it did on the outside and stuff like that, which is really cool. Now, I'm not a coder, so I don't know how to reverse it. I know how to apply it, but when I went to go like try to reverse it, I couldn't figure it out. So it just keeps happening. So you take the time to laugh at my fault. But you'll see that I've removed the walls. Ignore the thing up in the sky right now. But like they also do that. They remove like the forward walls and the ceiling. So that was cool too. And they would snap back if I would exit out of this, but I can't. I also started working on some sprites and models, and was playing around with just kind of like different rotation values on how they face the camera. And so I think we've got some cool little things there. So I do want to kind of like show what I've got going here, because I think it's kind of cool. I did have to take this outside of Unreal, but like I mean at some point it was going to have to happen. Yeah, so I used a program called Sprite, I think is how it's pronounced, and Blender, and used a plugin that allowed me to use the sprite to be my like texturing program. I thought it was really cool, and it was free, so I was like, let's do it. So I just want to show that super quick, and then I'll probably end this tutorial. Okay, cool. So here, if I show the plugin, which is called Primbase, I can launch a sprite, and it'll launch it straight up, and it'll give you this little sync notifier here. And then you just kind of come in here and say, hey, either create a new sprite or open one. So for this case, let's say barrel top, and I'll open it, and it'll pull up in the sprite here. And if I come down here, it will load in. And so if I were to like draw on this, it'll draw on here, and it'll update on here if I assign it to the material. So all I need to do is go to the material here and say there. And so now, in real time, I can start painting and drawing on it, which is really, really cool. So I could have like a grenade cache or something. I don't know. I didn't mean to draw it that. It just kind of looks like it. But if you notice that it's a little like pixelated, or not pixelated, well, yeah, but like if like the interpolation of it is weird, you can change it from linear to closest, and it'll be more pixelated, and it'll give you that closer look. So I think that's pretty cool. It's really easy to use, and I like it a lot. And you can even display your UVs back on in a spray there. So if you have like something that's a little more complex in UVs and stuff like that, you can just paint straight on that. So I think that is really, really, really cool. So that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope it's generated some cool ideas, and if anybody has anything, reach out to me. Bye.